What's going on, guys? So news came out recently that Captain America Civil War was only made because of Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. This news totally pisses me off, not because Marvel's copying DC. I could care less about that because studios do that shit all the time. I'm pissed as a comic book fan that a great story like Civil War is being used just to compete against another comic book movie. If Marvel would have waited a few years, maybe after the Infinity War, we could have got like an 80% comic book accurate Civil War, and it would have kicked Captain America Civil War's ass. Whether you think Captain America Civil War is the greatest comic book movie of all time or not, this version, I guarantee you, would have been 10 times better. If you haven't read Civil War, check out the video in the description. Had Marvel waited to make this movie, we could have had Punisher, Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, Luke Cage, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, and Captain Marvel. Those are just the characters that the MCU is currently developing. Over the course of a few years and a bunch of movies that they're doing, they could have added like She-Hulk, Tigra, Spider-Woman, and a whole bunch of different characters. On top of that, there are rumors out there floating around that Fox is open to an X-Men and Avengers crossover movie. Apparently producers have said this and the internet is going crazy because the Inhumans, who are supposed to replace the X-Men in the MCU, have had their movie pushed back to an unknown date. I should point out that the X-Men don't really take part in Civil War, but they do make a cameo. Side note, as of filming this video, freaking the Russo brothers, who did Captain America Civil War and who are in charge of the Infinity War, have come out and said that they want Wolverine in the MCU. So things are getting a little interesting with Fox being open to an Avengers crossover, Inhumans being pushed back, and now the Russos saying that they freaking want Wolverine in the MCU. It's starting to look like Fox might pull a Sony. If all that news becomes true, it just makes it even worse that Civil War could have been almost like the comic. Fantastic Four play a big part in Civil War, and their movies have sucked up until now, so even if this big deal doesn't get done, I could have easily seen them being like, look, we'll lend you the Fantastic Four for Civil War. Still waiting would have benefited them. The MCU now has Spider-Man. They're developing him in their universe now. He's already going to have a movie. I think he's going to have another one out before 2019. Could be wrong on that. So let's go ahead and talk about this in real time. Let's say Civil War is going to come out in 2020 or 2021. That gives you 4 to 5 years to introduce a shitload of characters. The date would be after the Infinity War. You could bring in a whole bunch of characters there. You're also bringing the characters from the TV shows into the MCU, which is still yet to be done. That way the audience gets a feel on how they're going to fit into the universe, and you get to further develop other characters like Agent 13, Spider-Man, Black Panther. Altogether, it would be a better scenario. Don't forget, our favorite superheroes are actually real people, and they're not going to play these characters forever. In 5 years, Robert Downey Jr. is going to be 56. Now, Chris Evans is only 34, so he might be able to play Captain America for like 15 more years if he wanted to. The big question is, how long will they want to do this? Recent rumors say Downey Jr. has one more Iron Man film left in him. Chris Evans says he's not ready to give up the shield just yet, but they are grooming Bucky to take over if Chris Evans does say, I'm done. Other rumors say that Evans might take a break from acting at some point because he wants to concentrate on directing. These are all huge questions because they will ultimately change the MCU. If the actors ever do want to leave, the next biggest question is, how do you make that happen? I would give them the biggest motherfucking send-off ever if Chris Evans came out and said, in 5 years, I'm going to retire as being Captain America. This is the story he goes out on. In Civil War, Captain America kicks so much ass, he stands up for what he believes in, he fights next to people that believe in him, and ultimately, it ends with the saddest ending of him getting capped by the woman that loves him. That's my kind of movie, because the whole time you're gonna have a boner from all the action that's going on. You're gonna be like, this is so awesome, but then at the end, you're gonna be crying like a baby like you did at the end of Fast and the Furious 7. Again, if Marvel would have waited, the development of other characters would have been essential in this freaking movie. One of the biggest things in Civil War is Peter Parker removes his freaking mask for the first time for the whole world to see who he is. In the MCU, he could have 2 movies by the time this Civil War would have came out, and people would have known him as Spider-Man, so when he removes his mask, you're just like, oh shit. Which would end up making Spider-Man 3 pretty crazy because all the villains would know who he is. One of the next biggest things in the comic book is Iron Man tricks freaking Captain America and his crew to show up to an emergency. When they do, Captain America starts kicking his ass, and they have to call in their freaking robotic Thor, not the real Thor, but they would use the real actor in this situation. They call down robotic Thor and he freaking blasts a hole through Goliath, a fucking hole in his chest, and Goliath dies. Seeing that shit on the big screen would be awesome. That would also be a reason for Spider-Man to leave Team Iron Man for Team Captain America. In Civil War, a lot of these heroes get captured and get taken to the negative zone where they're being held in prisons forever. That would also piss off Spider-Man, causing him to leave Team Stark for Team Cap. When this happens in the comics, Spider-Man tries to run away. Stark sends some people after him. They start beating the shit out of him. This would also be a great opportunity for Spider-Man to have his own scene fighting a bunch of villains. After they beat his ass, who shows up? Punisher, and he blasts all those bitches. He's like, boom, 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 boom. Punisher shows up and he picks up Spider-Man and he takes his almost dead, lifeless body to Captain America's team, and everybody's like, oh shit, what did you do? And he's like, I saved his life, bitches. Just imagine that scene, freaking Punisher holding in freaking Spider-Man into a room full of superheroes, and they're like, what the fuck happened? And that's gonna piss off all those superheroes to go kick freaking Team Iron Man's ass. This comic has so many freaking awesome introductions, and that's why I'm so freaking pissed off that we got the freaking movie that we got and not this shit. I'm not even done. Team Cap's gonna go to the negative zone to break out all those people, but he gets betrayed by Tigra because she warns freaking Team Stark. That's okay because Team Cap has somebody on the inside who's freaking morphed into Hank Pym and lets out all the damn heroes, and this big ass superhero fight starts happening, and they get transported by Cloak, I think, to freaking the middle of New York, and this big ass motherfucking fight happens in the middle of New York. That scene ends with Captain America beating the shit out of Iron Man to the point where he almost dies. People have to jump on him to stop him. That is the kind of shit I want to see in a comic book movie. I want to see the real stuff. If you've read it or seen that video I told you to watch, you know Captain America unmasks himself and turns himself in, but at that point, after that, is when you could freaking have the death of Captain America at the end if Chris Evans wanted to stop playing Captain America, and that movie right there would have been the perfect, ultimate, epic send-off for Chris Evans. That is why I'm pissed off that we got Captain America Civil War, which I thought the action was awesome. There was things I didn't like about it, but a lot of things I did like about it. Ultimately, I'm just pissed that a story that I have loved for years now was only made to compete with another superhero movie. I want to talk about something that I've been told multiple times, and that is when a company has to use its biggest properties, Batman, Superman, and make them go against each other, that means the company doesn't believe in the rest of their universe, or they're just like on their last straw. Which could totally be true, but it makes me ask the question, why would a company with an established universe, a successful established universe, go ahead and do the same thing, make its biggest heroes go against each other just to compete with a company that has no established universe? What does it say about that company? Ultimately, the only people that lose here are the fans, because we're having stories that are amazingly epic just torn down to the simplest of things, and that kind of blows. Anyways, that's it for this video, guys. Totally go read this, or at least watch that video in the description, because you don't know what you're missing out on. I want to know your thoughts. Did you like or dislike Captain America Civil War, the movie? Do you wish Marvel would have waited a few years and gave us the comic book Civil War? And lastly, do you think Chris Evans is just gonna play Captain America forever? Let me know in the comment sections down below. Guys and gals, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with all your Marvel buddies. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for all things nerdy and geeky on this channel. As always, guys, I am your host, JUICEbox. Remember, when you wake up in the morning, ask yourself something. Have I had my daily dose of juice? See you guys next time.